She was just a delivery girl working 2 jobs to survive. He was a billionaire CEO living alone in his glass mansion. One stormy night, a delivery app glitch brought them face to face and changed everything.
I hate to ask, but can I wait here just until it slows down?
Thank you. I promise I won't stay long.
What started as shelter from a storm became an unexpected dinner, then something deeper. But when she discovered the devastating truth about his company, everything shattered.
Your company created the software that cost my mother her job. The reason we're struggling to survive.
Kiana, please, give me a chance to make this right.
Now a man who had everything must choose between his empire and his heart, and a woman who believed in love must decide, can she forgive the man whose success came at her family's expense? Will love conquer the impossible divide between their worlds? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. The rain started just as Kiana Blake pulled her beat-up Honda into the hills of Bel Air. She sighed, watching the first heavy drops splash against her windshield. Perfect timing. The weather app had promised the storm wouldn't hit until after midnight, but here it was at 9 p.m., ready to soak her to the bone during her last delivery of the night. "Come on," she muttered, squinting at her phone's GPS. "Just get through this one, and you can go home." At 27, Kiana was used to long days. She'd been working 2 jobs since her brother Marcus started college 3 years ago. Days at the insurance office answering phones, nights delivering food to people who spent more on dinner than she made in a week. Her mother had helped too, until the hospital where she'd worked as a nurse for 15 years suddenly laid off half the staff. Kiana adjusted her rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of her tired face. Her normally bright eyes looked dull tonight, but she still managed to smile. That smile had gotten her through worse than a little rain. "Okay, 1422 Hillcrest Drive," she said to herself, turning onto a street lined with massive homes hidden behind elaborate gates. The houses up here always made her feel small, like she was trespassing, just by driving past them. The gate at 1422 was open, so she drove through and parked in the circular driveway. The house loomed in front of her, modern, all glass and sharp angles, with lights glowing warmly from within. Grabbing the insulated bag with someone's $90 sushi order, she made a dash for the front door. By the time she reached the shelter of the porch, rain was coming down in sheets. Thunder cracked overhead, making her jump. Kiana had hated thunderstorms since she was a little girl. Something about the unpredictability of it, the way the thunder could sneak up on you no matter how prepared you thought you were. She rang the doorbell and tried to smooth down her curls, which were already frizzing from the humidity. The sooner she handed over this food, the sooner she could go home, make some tea, and call Marcus to check on him. The door swung open, and Kiana found herself face to face with a man who looked nothing like what she expected. Most of her deliveries in this neighborhood were received by housekeepers or assistants. This man was clearly the homeowner, tall, with dark hair cut short on the sides but slightly longer on top, wearing an expensive-looking white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. His face was all angles, like the house, sharp jawline, straight nose, deep-set eyes that seemed surprised to see her. "Good evening," Kiana said, putting on her delivery smile. "I have your sushi order from Nobu." The man frowned, his eyebrows drawing together. "I didn't order anything." Kiana's smile faltered. She checked her phone. "This is 1422 Hillcrest Drive, right?" "Yes, but I didn't order any food." "Oh!" She scrolled through the app, feeling foolish as rain dripped from her hair onto the screen. "I'm so sorry. It looks like there might have been a glitch in the app. It says 1422, but maybe it was supposed to be—" A flash of lightning lit up the sky, followed immediately by a deafening crack of thunder. Kiana flinched, nearly dropping the bag. The man looked at her, then past her at the downpour, which had somehow gotten even heavier. "I hate to ask," Kiana said, hating how vulnerable she suddenly felt. "But can I wait here just until it slows down?" For a moment he didn't respond, and Kiana was sure he was going to close the door in her face. But then, without a word, he stepped back, opening the door wider. "Thank you," she said, stepping inside. "I promise I won't stay long, just until the worst passes." The interior of the house was even more impressive than the exterior, minimalist but clearly expensive, with high ceilings and a view of the city lights that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. "You're soaked," the man said, his voice softer than before. Kiana laughed nervously. "Yeah, not my best look. Sorry about your floor." She glanced down at the small puddle forming beneath her feet. "It's just water." He hesitated, then added, "I'm Adrian Voss." Kiana Blake. An awkward silence fell between them. Kiana clutched the food bag, unsure what to do with it now. Are you hungry? Adrian asked suddenly. What? The food? Since it was delivered here by mistake, and you're stuck here anyway. He shrugged. Seems a shame to waste it. Kiana was about to politely decline when her stomach betrayed her with a loud growl. She hadn't eaten since noon. I'll take that as a yes, Adrian said, and for the first time, the hint of a smile touched his lips. Come on, kitchen's this way. Kiana followed him through the house, feeling oddly like she was in a dream. This wasn't how her deliveries usually went. People in houses like this didn't invite the delivery girl to dinner. But then again, people in houses like this usually didn't answer their own doors either. The kitchen was a chef's dream, all stainless steel and marble with appliances that looked like they belonged in a restaurant. Do you cook? Kiana asked as Adrian took plates from a cabinet. Not really, the kitchen came with the house. He set the plates on the island. I mostly order in, or don't eat. Don't eat? Like, at all? Adrian shrugged again. I forget sometimes. Work gets busy. What kind of work makes you forget to eat? As soon as the words left her mouth, Kiana regretted them. It wasn't her business. Sorry, I don't mean to pry. No, it's fine. Adrian opened the bag and began setting out containers of sushi. I run a tech company, Voss Innovations. We develop healthcare software. Kiana nodded, though the name didn't ring any bells. Sounds important. It's supposed to be. That's what I tell the board, anyway. There was something bitter in his tone that made Kiana look at him more closely. Rough day? Adrian paused, chopsticks in hand. Rough year, actually. He seemed surprised by his own admission. Sorry, I don't usually talk about these things. No worries. I'm a stranger in your house because of a delivery app glitch. Pretty weird situation all around. Kiana smiled, hoping to ease the tension. It worked. Adrian's face relaxed slightly. True. And now we're having dinner together. Very weird. They ate in silence for a few minutes, the sound of rain against the windows, the only noise. Kiana couldn't help noticing how tired Adrian looked up close. Not just physically tired, but worn down in a deeper way. So 2 jobs, huh? Adrian said suddenly. Kiana looked up, surprised. How did you know that? He nodded toward her uniform shirt beneath her open jacket. Insurance company logo, plus the delivery gig. Oh, yeah. Kiana set down her chopsticks. Days at Pacific Life Insurance, nights delivering for West Side Eats. Not exactly the career path I dreamed about as a kid, but it pays the bills. Most of them, anyway. What did you dream about as a kid? The question caught her off guard. People didn't usually ask her things like that, especially not wealthy strangers in multi-million-dollar homes. I wanted to be a nurse like my mom, she answered honestly, but college is expensive, and then my brother got accepted to UCLA and... She trailed off with a shrug. Life happens. Adrian was watching her with an intensity that made her both uncomfortable and oddly seen. Your brother's at UCLA? Yeah, Marcus. He's studying computer science. Super smart kid. He's going to do amazing things. Pride filled her voice whenever she talked about Marcus. And you're helping pay for it? Me and my mum. Or we were, until she lost her job a few months ago. Kiana didn't know why she was telling him all this. Something about the quiet kitchen, the rain outside, the strange intimacy of sharing a meal with a stranger. It loosened her tongue. That must be hard, Adrian said, and the genuine concern in his voice surprised her. We manage. That's what families do, right? Kiana smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Anyway, enough about my sob story. What about you? Family. A shadow passed over Adrian's face. Not really. My father died 3 months ago. I'm sorry. Don't be. We weren't close. Adrian pushed his plate away. We hadn't spoken in years, actually. He left everything to me anyway, including controlling interest in the company. Now I'm stuck trying to run it the way he would have wanted, even though I never really understood what he wanted. Kiana didn't know what to say to that. Her family might struggle, but they were close. She couldn't imagine being at odds with her mother or brother. That sounds lonely, she finally said. Adrian looked startled, as if no one had ever said something so direct to him before. It is. The admission hung in the air between them. Would you like some wine? Adrian asked abruptly, standing up. I have a bottle open. Sure, why not? My shift is over anyway. He returned with 2 glasses and a bottle that probably cost more than Kiana's rent. As he poured, she noticed his hands were steady, controlled like everything else about him seemed to be. So, do you always invite strange women who show up at your door to dinner? Kiana asked with a small smile. Never, actually. This is a first. Adrian handed her a glass. Do you always accept dinner invitations from strange men? Never, actually. She mimicked his formal tone and was rewarded with a genuine smile that transformed his face. They moved to the living room, where floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the storm raging outside. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the city below. Kiana no longer flinched at the thunder. She was too busy trying to understand the enigma sitting across from her. Adrian Voss was nothing like the wealthy people she usually delivered to. There was no condescension in his voice when he spoke to her, no artificial politeness, hiding disdain. Instead, there was a vulnerability that seemed at odds with his obvious success. He asked her questions about her life and actually listened to her answers. "So, what made you walk out of your board meeting today?" Kiana asked, after her second glass of wine had loosened her inhibitions. Adrian looked surprised. "How did you know I walked out? You're still wearing your dress shirt and slacks at 9:30 at night, but your tie is gone and your sleeves are rolled up, like you wanted to get comfortable but didn't have time to change. Plus, you've checked your phone about 15 times since I got here, and you've ignored at least 5 calls." He stared at her, then laughed. A real laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "You're very observant. You have to be, in customer service. Reading people is how you survive." Adrian's smile faded. "They wanted to implement more layoffs. 3rd round this year. I told them no, but they kept pushing, talking about shareholder value and market expectations." He shook his head. "My father would have done it without hesitation. Bottom line was all that mattered to him." "And to you?" Kiana asked softly. "I don't know anymore." Adrian's eyes met hers. "I used to think I knew what I wanted, to build something meaningful, to help people. But somehow I ended up in an ivory tower, making decisions that affect thousands of people I'll never meet." "Like my mom," Kiana said without thinking. "What do you mean?" "She was laid off from Los Angeles Memorial 3 months ago. 15 years as a nurse, and suddenly they structured the entire department, some new management system they implemented." She sighed. "Sorry, I don't mean to bring down the mood. It's not your fault." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "What's your mom doing now?" "Picking up shifts where she can, applying everywhere. It's tough out there for nurses right now, with all the budget cuts." Kiana glanced at her watch and was shocked to see it was almost midnight. "Oh, I should go. The rain stopped and I've taken up way too much of your time." "You haven't," Adrian said quickly. "This is the most interesting conversation I've had in... I can't remember how long." Kiana laughed. "Now I know you need to get out more." "Probably true." He stood when she did, following her to the door. "Kiana, He stopped, seeming unsure of what he wanted to say. "It's okay," she smiled. "Thanks for dinner and the shelter from the storm." It was unexpectedly nice. Yes, it was. He opened the door for her. The night air was fresh after the rain, and the stars were visible now that the clouds had cleared. "Drive safely. Always do." Kiana stepped outside, then turned back. You know, Adrian, maybe you don't have to do things the way your father would have. Maybe you can find your own way." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, then thoughtfulness. Maybe. Kiana walked to her car, feeling his eyes on her back. As she drove away, she glanced in her rearview mirror and saw him still standing in the doorway watching her go. It wasn't until she was halfway home that she realized she hadn't given him back the change from the sushi order. A perfect excuse to see him again. Not that she should want to. Men like Adrian Voss didn't belong in her world, and she certainly didn't belong in his. Tonight had been a fluke, a strange intersection of their lives that would never be repeated. But as she pulled into the parking lot of her apartment building, Kiana couldn't help but wonder what Adrian Voss would do tomorrow. Would he go back to his board meeting and agree to more layoffs? Or would he find another way? And why did she care so much about the answer? She was still thinking about him when she finally fell asleep, the memory of his smile following her into her dreams. At 6 the next morning, Kiana's alarm dragged her back to reality. Another day, another dollar. Actually, many dollars needed if Marcus was going to register for his fall classes on time. She made coffee in the tiny kitchen of the apartment she shared with her mother, trying not to make noise that would wake her. Joyce Blake worked night shifts when she could get them, and sleep was precious. But Joyce was already up, sitting at their small table with bills spread out in front of her. "Morning, Mum," Kiana said, kissing the top of her mother's head. "You're up early." Joyce looked up with tired eyes but managed a smile. "Couldn't sleep. Too much on my mind." She held up an envelope. "College tuition reminder." Kiana's heart sank. "I thought we had until next month. That was for the deposit. This is the first full payment." Joyce sighed. "I've been going through our savings. If I pick up extra shifts and you keep doing the deliveries, we'll make it work, Kiana said firmly, pouring coffee for both of them. We always do. I know, baby, I just hate that you're working yourself to the bone. You should be living your own life, not supporting me and your brother. Hey, we're a team. Kiana sat down beside her mother and took her hand. And it's not forever. Once Marcus graduates and gets a job in tech, we'll be set. He's always saying he's going to buy us a mansion in Bel Air. The mention of Bel Air brought back memories of the night before, of Adrian Voss and his lonely glass house. Kiana pushed the thoughts away. That was another world, one that had nothing to do with the bills on their table or the tuition payment looming over them. Speaking of your deliveries, Joyce said, you got home late last night. Everything okay? Yeah, just got caught in the storm. Had to wait it out. Kiana wasn't sure why she didn't mention Adrian. It seemed too complicated to explain, and somehow too personal. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Morning, sis. Professor loved my project. Said it might get me an internship next semester. Kiana smiled, showing the text to her mother. See, it's all worth it. Joyce's face softened. That boy is going to change the world someday, and we're going to help him do it. Kiana stood, gulping down the rest of her coffee. I better get ready for work. The insurance world waits for no one. As she showered and dressed, Kiana tried to focus on the day ahead, the calls she'd have to answer, the claims she'd have to process, the deliveries she'd make that night. But her mind kept drifting back to Adrian Voss and the strange connection she'd felt with him. It was silly, she told herself. One conversation didn't make a connection. He probably wouldn't even remember her name by now. Little did she know that across the city, in his glass house on the hill, Adrian Voss was thinking of her too. The delivery girl with the warm smile and sharp eyes, who had somehow made him question everything he thought he knew about his life. And as they both started their days, in different worlds that had briefly collided, neither knew that the glitch in a delivery app had set in motion events that would change both their lives forever. 2 weeks passed, and Kiana had almost convinced herself to forget about the night at Adrian's house. Almost. But every time she drove through the hills on a delivery, her eyes would scan the street signs for Hillcrest Drive. She told herself it was just curiosity, wondering if he'd gone back to his board meeting, if he'd found his own way. It was Friday night, and Kiana was on her last delivery of the evening when her phone pinged with a new order. She groaned. It was already past 10, and she'd promised her mother she'd be home early to help sort through job applications. Just one more, she muttered, accepting the order. When the address popped up on her screen, her heart skipped a beat. 1422 Hillcrest Drive. She stared at the phone, wondering if it was another glitch, but the order details were clear. 1 meal from an expensive Italian restaurant, delivery to Adrian Voss. This can't be a coincidence, she said to herself, as she picked up the order and drove toward Bel Air. This time, the night was clear, stars visible above the city lights. Kiana parked in the same circular driveway and walked to the front door, her heart beating faster than she wanted to admit. She rang the doorbell, half expecting a housekeeper to answer, but it was Adrian who opened the door, looking more casual than before in a dark sweater and jeans. Kiana, he said, and the surprise in his voice seemed genuine. You're back. You ordered Italian, she replied, holding up the bag. Unless this is another glitch. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. No glitch this time. I ordered dinner. He paused, though I have to admit I didn't expect you to be the one delivering it. Is that disappointment I hear? Kiana teased. The opposite, actually. He stepped back, opening the door wider. Would you like to come in? I ordered enough for 2. Kiana hesitated. Last time had been an accident, a chance encounter during a storm. This time would be a choice. I don't know if that's a good idea. Probably not, Adrian agreed. But I've been thinking about our conversation for 2 weeks. You have? Kiana couldn't hide her surprise. You said something that night, about finding my own way. His eyes met hers. I'd like to tell you what happened after. Curiosity won out over caution. I guess I could stay for a little while. Once again, Kiana found herself following Adrian through the house to the kitchen. But something was different this time. The house felt less cold, less museum-like. There were books on the coffee table, a jacket thrown over a chair, a half-empty coffee mug on the counter. Signs of life. You've been home more, she observed as he unpacked the food. Adrian glanced at her, clearly surprised by her perception. Yes. I've been working from here instead of the office when possible. Why? He was quiet for a moment, focusing on opening containers. The day after you were here, I went back to the board meeting. They were still pushing for layoffs. Cost-cutting measures, they called it. Before I would have just gone along with it, done what was expected. What my father would have done. But you didn't. No. Adrian handed her a plate. I told them we needed to look at other options. I've spent the past 2 weeks reviewing our operations, looking for inefficiencies that don't involve firing people who need their jobs. And have you found any? Kiana asked, genuinely curious. Several, actually. We've been maintaining multiple office spaces we don't need, paying for software licenses we never use, and keeping an executive jet that costs millions to maintain. Adrian's expression hardened. My father's jet. He used it maybe 5 times a year but insisted it was necessary for the company image. So you're selling it? Already sold, along with the vacation properties in Aspen and the Hamptons that the company was somehow paying for. There was a quiet satisfaction in his voice. The board wasn't happy, but the numbers don't lie. We're going to save more this way than we would have with layoffs. Kiana felt a warmth spread through her chest. That's amazing, Adrian. You did find your own way. Thanks to you. His eyes held hers. Your perspective. It stayed with me. They moved to the living room with their food, sitting closer this time on the same sofa. So, Adrian said after a while, how have your 2 weeks been? Kiana laughed. Not quite as dramatic as yours. No private jets sold, no board meetings defied. Tell me anyway. And she did. She told him about her brother's success with his programming project, about her mother's continued job search, about the rude customer at the insurance office who'd made her cry in the bathroom. It should have felt strange, sharing these details of her ordinary life with someone like Adrian. But it didn't. He listened like everything she said mattered. Your family sounds wonderful, Adrian said when she finished talking about Marcus's latest phone call. They are. They drive me crazy sometimes, but I'd do anything for them. Kiana studied his face. What about your family? You mentioned your father, but my mother died when I was 12. Cancer. Adrian's voice was flat, clinical. My father buried himself in work after that. Sent me to boarding school. We saw each other on holidays sometimes. When I graduated from MIT, he offered me a position at the company. I think it was the closest thing to affection he knew how to show. I'm sorry, Adrian. That sounds really lonely. He shrugged, but the casual gesture couldn't hide the pain in his eyes. It was what it was. When he died, I didn't even cry. I just stepped into his role, like I was always meant to. But lately I've been wondering if I'm just becoming him. You're not, Kiana said firmly. The fact that you're worried about it proves you're not. Maybe. Adrian's gaze was intense. Or maybe I just needed someone to remind me there's more to life than profit margins. The air between them seemed to change, charged with something Kiana wasn't ready to name. She glanced at her watch, searching for a distraction. It's getting late. I should probably go. Of course. Adrian stood when she did, walking her to the door. Thank you for staying. Thank you for the dinner. Kiana hesitated at the door. And for what you did with the board. It matters. Will you be working tomorrow night? Adrian asked suddenly. Yes. Why? I might order dinner again. Kiana smiled despite herself. It's a big delivery zone. No guarantee you'll get me. I'll take my chances. There was something boyish in his smile that made him look younger, less burdened. As Kiana drove home, she couldn't stop smiling. There was something happening between them, something unexpected and probably unwise. But for the first time in years, she felt like something was beginning rather than ending. Her mother was still up when she got home, sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. Any luck? Kiana asked, setting her keys down. Joyce sighed, pushing back from the computer. Not really. I had a promising lead at Cedars-Sinai, but they just implemented some new system that reduced their staffing needs. She rubbed her eyes. The whole industry is changing, and not for the better. You'll find something, Mom. You're the best nurse in Los Angeles. From your lips to God's ears. Joyce smiled tiredly. How was your shift? Kiana hesitated. Good. Busy. She wasn't ready to talk about Adrian, especially not when her mother was dealing with her own struggles. You've been smiling more lately, Joyce observed, even with all the extra hours. Have I? Joyce gave her a knowing look. Anything you want to tell your mother about? Not yet, Kiana said honestly, but maybe soon. Over the next few weeks, maybe soon, turned into something real. Adrian ordered dinner 3 more times, and each time Kiana found herself staying longer. They talked about everything. His work, her dreams, books they'd read, places they wanted to see. He made her laugh with stories about his college days, and she taught him how to cook simple meals so he wouldn't have to order out so often. One night, as they sat on his patio watching the city lights, Adrian's hand found hers. He didn't say anything, just intertwined their fingers like it was the most natural thing in the world. And maybe it was, because Kiana didn't pull away. At home, Marcus noticed the change in his sister first. "You're different," he said, during his weekend visit from UCLA. "Happier." "Am I?" "Definitely." Marcus grinned. "So who is he? What makes you think there's a he?" "Because you're glowing, sis. And you keep checking your phone every 5 minutes. Kiana threw a pillow at him. "Mind your business, college boy. It is my business when my big sister's in love." "I'm not in love," Kiana protested, but even she didn't believe it anymore. Later that same day, as they worked together on dinner, Marcus brought it up again. "So, when do we get to meet him?" "Who says there's anyone to meet?" Marcus rolled his eyes. "Come on, Kiana. I'm not blind. Neither is Mom, by the way. She's just giving you space." Kiana sighed, setting down the knife she'd been using to chop vegetables. "It's complicated, Marcus. Because he's..." Kiana struggled to find the words. "He's from a different world. He runs a tech company, lives in a house bigger than our entire apartment building, and probably makes more money in a day than we do in a year." Marcus let out a low whistle. "Wow, how'd you meet a guy like that?" "Delivery app glitch. I ended up at his door by mistake." "That's some glitch." Marcus grinned. "So what's the problem? Sounds like you like him and he obviously likes you. The problem is that we're too different. His life is board meetings and million-dollar decisions. Mine is insurance claims and food deliveries." "So? You're still the same person inside, that's what matters." Kiana wished it was that simple. "What if I'm just a novelty to him? The girl from the other side of the tracks who showed him how the rest of the world lives? Is that how he treats you?" "No," Kiana admitted. "He treats me like I matter." "Then maybe you do." Marcus bumped her shoulder affectionately. "Don't overthink it, sis." But overthinking was exactly what Kiana did best. Every time she was with Adrian, she felt herself falling deeper. And every time she left, she questioned whether she was setting herself up for heartbreak. Her fears didn't stop her from saying yes when Adrian asked her to have dinner at a real restaurant instead of his house, or when he suggested a day at the beach, or a visit to the Getty Museum. Each date, because that's what they were now, dates, revealed new sides of Adrian. The way his eyes lit up when he talked about technology that could help people. The gentleness with which he treated everyone they encountered, from waiters to parking attendants. The quiet pain that still shadowed him when he spoke of his father. One evening, as they walked along the Santa Monica Pier after dinner, Adrian stopped and turned to her. "I have a confession to make," he said, his face serious in the fading light. Kiana's heart skipped a beat. "What kind of confession?" "The delivery to my house that second time. It wasn't a coincidence." "What do you mean?" Adrian looked almost embarrassed. "I called the delivery service directly, asked if there was a way to request a specific driver, said you'd left something at my house the first time." "You didn't!" Kiana couldn't help but laugh. "Adrian Voss, did you manipulate a delivery app just to see me again?" "Guilty." His smile was sheepish. "I couldn't stop thinking about you and I didn't have your number, so you abused your tech CEO powers for a good cause." His expression grew serious again. "I've never met anyone like you, Kiana. You see things, people, differently than anyone I know. When I'm with you, I feel like I can be better than I am." "You're already pretty great," Kiana said softly. Adrian's hand came up to cup her cheek. "Can I kiss you?" Instead of answering, Kiana rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. The world seemed to fade away as his arms wrapped around her, pulling her closer. It was perfect, the kind of kiss she'd stopped believing existed outside of movies. When they finally broke apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "I think I'm falling in love with you, Kiana Blake." The words sent both joy and panic through her. "Adrian, You don't have to say anything," he assured her quickly. "I just wanted you to know." But Kiana knew her own heart too well to deny it. "I think I'm falling in love with you too." That night, when Adrian dropped her off at her apartment, Kiana felt like she was floating. She'd never believed in fairy tales, but maybe, just maybe, she'd found her own version of one. The bubble burst the next morning. Kiana was helping her mother with yet another job application when Joyce suddenly pointed to the screen. "Look at this," she said, her voice tight. "Los Angeles Memorial just posted a statement about their restructuring. Apparently they've implemented some new management system from a company called Voss Innovations." The name hit Kiana like a physical blow. "What? Voss Innovations? Joyce repeated, scrolling through the article. They claim this system will optimize healthcare delivery and reduce overhead costs. What it really means is they're firing nurses and making the rest of us do twice the work. Kiana's mind was spinning. It couldn't be. Not Adrian's company. Not the same software that had cost her mother her job. Is there a picture of the CEO, she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Let me see. Joyce clicked on a link, and there he was, Adrian in a business suit, looking serious and professional. The caption read, Adrian Voss, CEO of Voss Innovations, whose healthcare management software has been adopted by major hospitals across the country. Kiana, Joyce was looking at her with concern. You've gone pale. What's wrong? I know him, Kiana said, the words feeling like stones in her mouth. You know the CEO of Voss Innovations? How? He's the man I've been seeing. Joyce stared at her in disbelief. The man you've been seeing is the one whose company cost me my job, the one whose software is destroying careers of nurses across the city. Mom, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Tears filled Kiana's eyes. He told me he ran a tech company that developed healthcare software, but I never connected it to what happened at the hospital. Well, now you know. Joyce's voice was cold in a way Kiana had never heard before. Now you know exactly who you're falling in love with. It's not his fault, Kiana said, though doubt was already creeping in. He inherited the company from his father. He's been trying to make changes, to find ways to save jobs. Really? Because from where I'm sitting, his company is the reason thousands of nurses are out of work. The reason we're struggling to pay Marcus's tuition. The reason I lie awake at night wondering if we're going to lose this apartment. Each word was like a knife to Kiana's heart. Mom, please. No, Kiana. Joyce stood up, her expression a mixture of hurt and betrayal. I need some time to process this. I can't believe you've been seeing this man, bringing him into our lives when his company has caused us so much pain. I didn't know, Kiana repeated helplessly, but her mother had already walked away, disappearing into her bedroom with a quiet click of the door. Kiana sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at Adrian's face on the screen, the man she thought she knew, the man whose kiss still lingered on her lips, the man whose company had taken everything from her mother. Her phone buzzed with a text message. Adrian's name flashed on the screen. Good morning, beautiful. Can't stop thinking about last night. Dinner tonight. Kiana's hand trembled as she set the phone down without responding. How could she face him now, knowing what she knew? How could she look into those eyes that had captivated her and not see the cause of her mother's pain? But a small voice inside her whispered that there had to be more to the story. The Adrian she knew cared about people. He'd fought his board to prevent layoffs. He'd sold his father's jet to save jobs. There had to be an explanation. Or had she been fooling herself all along? Had she seen only what she wanted to see? As the morning sun filled the small apartment, Kiana Blake faced the most painful choice of her life between the man who had opened her heart and the family who had always been her world. And for the first time, she didn't know which way to turn. Kiana didn't answer Adrian's text that morning, or the one he sent in the afternoon, or his call that evening. Each time her phone lit up with his name, her heart twisted painfully in her chest. Joyce hadn't spoken to her all day, moving around their small apartment like a ghost, her disappointment filling every corner. The silence was worse than anger would have been. By nightfall, Kiana couldn't take it anymore. She knocked gently on her mother's bedroom door. Mom, can we talk? A moment passed before Joyce answered. Come in. Kiana found her mother sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at old family photos. Pictures of happier times when Kiana's father was still alive, when money wasn't such a constant worry. I'm sorry, Kiana said, sitting beside her. I should have told you about Adrian sooner. Joyce closed the photo album slowly. How long have you been seeing him? About a month. It started the night of that big storm. I delivered food to his house by accident. And you didn't think to mention that your new boyfriend runs the company that's been destroying healthcare jobs across the city. I didn't know, Mom. I swear. Kiana's voice cracked. He told me he ran a tech company that made healthcare software. I never connected it to what happened at the hospital. Joyce studied her daughter's face. And now that you know? I don't know what to do, Kiana admitted. The Adrian I know is kind and thoughtful. He's been fighting his board to prevent layoffs. He's nothing like you'd expect a CEO to be. People show you what they want you to see, Kiana, especially men with power. Joyce's voice was gentle but firm. His company created software specifically designed to cut costs by eliminating nursing positions, the same positions I and my colleagues held for years. What if he doesn't know? What if he inherited these problems from his father? Then he should fix them. Joyce took Kiana's hand. Baby, I'm not telling you what to do, but I've spent my life taking care of people, and I've seen what happens when profits become more important than people. If he truly cares about you, he'll listen when you tell him how his company's decisions affect real lives. Kiana nodded, tears filling her eyes. I'll talk to him, I promise. She sent Adrian a text that night. We need to talk. Tomorrow. In person. His reply came instantly. Name the time and place. Is everything okay? No, she wanted to type. Nothing is okay. Instead, she suggested a coffee shop halfway between her apartment and his house. Neutral ground. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Kiana tossed and turned, replaying every conversation she'd had with Adrian. Had there been signs she'd missed? Had he been manipulating her all along? The Adrian she thought she knew wouldn't do that, but maybe she didn't know him at all. The next morning, Kiana arrived at the coffee shop early. She chose a table in the corner, away from other customers. When Adrian walked in, his face lit up at the sight of her, then quickly fell as he registered her expression. Kiana, what's wrong? He asked, sliding into the seat across from her. Voss Innovations, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Your company developed the management software used by Los Angeles Memorial Hospital. Adrian looked confused by the sudden topic. Yes, our healthcare management system. It's been implemented in hospitals across the country. The same system that led to mass layoffs of nursing staff 3 months ago. It's designed to optimize resources, yes, but Adrian stopped as understanding dawned on his face. Your mother, she worked at Los Angeles Memorial. For 15 years, Kiana said, fighting to keep her voice from shaking. Until your system decided she was an inefficiency that could be cut. The color drained from Adrian's face. Kiana, did you know? She demanded. When I told you about my mother losing her job, did you know it was because of your company? No, Adrian said immediately. I knew we'd implemented our system at several hospitals in Los Angeles, but I didn't make the connection to your mother. I never thought... That's the problem, isn't it? Kiana cut in. You never thought about the real people affected by your decisions. The nurses who lost their jobs, the patients who lost their care, the families who lost their income. Adrian looked stricken. The system wasn't designed to eliminate jobs. It was meant to streamline processes, reduce paperwork, make healthcare more efficient. Well, it did a lot more than that. It cost my mother her career. It's why I'm working 2 jobs instead of 1. It's why we're struggling to keep my brother in college. Kiana's voice broke. Also, your company could increase its profit margin by what? 2%? 3? Kiana, please. Adrian reached for her hand, but she pulled away. I inherited this company from my father. Many of these decisions were made before I took over. And what have you done to change them? Kiana challenged. You told me you fought your board about layoffs at your company. What about the layoffs your company causes at other companies? Adrian was silent, and Kiana could see the truth in his eyes. He hadn't thought about it. Not really. I thought I knew you, she said quietly. I thought you were different. I am, Adrian insisted. Or at least, I'm trying to be. Kiana, give me a chance to make this right. How? How can you make this right? Can you give my mother her job back? Can you give all those other nurses their jobs back? I don't know, Adrian admitted. But I want to try. Please don't walk away. Kiana stood, gathering her purse. I need time, Adrian. And you need to think about what kind of man you want to be. The kind who hides behind his father's legacy, or the kind who's brave enough to forge his own path. She left him sitting there, his face a mask of regret and confusion. As she walked to her car, tears blurred her vision. Part of her had hoped he would have an explanation, a solution, some magic words that would make everything okay. But there were no magic words, only the harsh reality that the man she was falling in love with was responsible, directly or indirectly, for her family's suffering. When she got home, Marcus was waiting for her. He'd come home from campus unexpectedly, concerned after a phone call with their mother. Mum told me, he said, hugging Kiana as she walked through the door, about your boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend, Kiana said automatically. At least, I don't think he is anymore. Did you talk to him? Yes. Kiana sank onto the couch, emotionally exhausted. He didn't know about Mom specifically, but he didn't seem shocked about the layoffs in general, like it was just collateral damage. Marcus sat beside her. What are you going to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to never see him again, but another part still cares about him. Marcus finished for her. Is that terrible? Am I betraying Mom? Marcus shook his head. Love isn't that simple, sis. And people aren't all good or all bad. When did you get so wise? Kiana asked, managing a small smile. I've always been the smart one in the family. Marcus bumped her shoulder affectionately. For what it's worth, I think you should give him a chance to make things right. Not for his sake, but for yours. So you don't spend the rest of your life wondering what might have been. Kiana rested her head on her brother's shoulder. When did you grow up so much? Somewhere between differential equations and data structures, he joked. For the next week, Kiana threw herself into work, picking up extra shifts at both jobs to keep her mind occupied. Adrian texted daily, not pushing, just letting her know he was thinking of her, that he was working on something, that he hoped she was okay. She didn't respond, but she didn't block his number either. At home, the tension with Joyce had eased somewhat. They didn't talk about Adrian, but the silent treatment had ended, replaced by cautious conversations about everyday things. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Then, 10 days after their coffee shop confrontation, Kiana came home to find her mother staring at her laptop in shock. "Mom, what's wrong?" Joyce looked up, her expression unreadable. "I just got an email from Los Angeles Memorial. They're asking me to come in for an interview. They're reinstating nursing positions that were cut during the restructuring." Kiana's heart skipped a beat. "What? Why?" "According to this, there's been a re-evaluation of the management system. They're implementing a new version that emphasizes human-centered care and recognizes the essential role of experienced nursing staff." Joyce scrolled through the email. "They're offering me my old position, with back pay for the past month." That's amazing," Kiana said, her mind racing. "Did they say why the sudden change?" "Not specifically, just that there's been a comprehensive review of patient outcomes since the initial implementation of the system." Joyce looked up at her daughter. "Kiana, did you have something to do with this?" "No," Kiana said truthfully, "but I think I know who did." That night, after her mother had gone to bed, Kiana finally answered one of Adrian's texts. "I heard about what's happening at the hospital. Was that you?" His reply came within seconds. "Can I see you, please?" She agreed to meet him the following evening at a small park near her apartment. When she arrived, Adrian was already there, sitting on a bench, looking more casual than she'd ever seen him in jeans and a simple sweater. He stood when he saw her approaching. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice filled with cautious hope. "My mother got a job offer from the hospital," Kiana said without preamble, "along with many other nurses who were laid off. What did you do?" Adrian gestured to the bench and they both sat down. "After you left the coffee shop, I went back to my office and pulled every piece of data on our healthcare management system. I spent 3 days going through patient outcomes, staffing levels, efficiency metrics, everything. And you were right." Adrian's voice was heavy with regret. "The system was designed to cut costs, primarily by reducing staff. My father's approach to business, pure and simple. Maximum profit, minimum expense. So you changed it? I had our team completely rebuild the core algorithm. Instead of just focusing on cost cutting, it now evaluates patient outcomes, quality of care, and staff well-being." Adrian ran a hand through his hair. "It turns out hospitals that maintained higher nursing staff levels had fewer complications, shorter patient stays, and better long-term outcomes. The so-called inefficiency of having more nurses actually saved money in the big picture. And the hospital just agreed to implement this new version?" "Not at first." A small smile touched Adrian's lips. "But when I offered to provide it at no additional cost and to cover the expenses of rehiring the laid-off staff for the first 3 months as a demonstration of good faith, they were more receptive." Kiana stared at him. "You're paying for my mother's salary? For the first 3 months, yes. Along with everyone else who was let go. After that, the hospital will see the benefits for themselves." Adrian's eyes met hers. "It's not just Los Angeles Memorial. We're reaching out to every hospital that implemented our system, offering the same deal. That must be costing you a fortune." "It is." Adrian didn't look away. "I sold my house in Bel Air, and my car. I've moved into a condo in the city." "What?" Kiana couldn't hide her shock. "Why would you do that?" "Because you were right about something else too. I've been hiding behind my father's legacy, afraid to make real changes. It was easier to live in his house, drive his cars, run his company his way." Adrian's voice grew stronger. "But that's not who I want to be. I want to build something that helps people, not hurts them. The board must be furious." "They are." Adrian laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I had to use my controlling interest to push it through. 3 members resigned in protest, but the ones who stayed, they're starting to see the vision." "Which is?" A company that measures success not just in profits, but in impact, in lives improved, not costs cut. Adrian hesitated, then added softly, "The kind of company I'd be proud to tell you about over dinner." Kiana felt something shift inside her. The anger that had sustained her for the past week began to melt away, replaced by a cautious hope. "You did all this because of what I said?" "I did it because of who you are," Adrian corrected. "You made me see people, real people, instead of numbers on a spreadsheet. You made me remember why I wanted to work in healthcare technology in the first place. To help, not harm." Kiana was quiet for a long moment, processing everything he'd told her. "Adrian, what you've done, it's incredible. But my mother probably still hates me," Adrian finished for her. "And she has every right to. I can't undo the past few months of hardship my company caused her. All I can do is try to make it right going forward." "She doesn't hate you," Kiana said. "She doesn't even know you, but she's hurt and it's going to take time." "I understand." Adrian took a deep breath. "Kiana, I know I have no right to ask this, but is there still a chance for us, or have I ruined everything?" The question hung in the air between them. Kiana thought about the past month, the connection they'd found, the way Adrian made her feel, the steps he'd taken to right his wrongs. She thought about her mother's pain and her brother's advice. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "What you did was amazing, but it doesn't erase everything. My family has to come first." "I would never ask you to choose," Adrian said quickly. "I respect your loyalty to them. It's one of the many things I love about you." The word love made Kiana's heart skip a beat. "You don't even know if your changes will work in the long run. What if the hospitals go back to the old system after the 3 months are up? Then I'll find another solution and another after that." Adrian's determination was clear in his voice. "I'm not giving up, Kiana. Not on the company and not on us, unless you tell me there's no chance." Kiana looked at him, really looked at him. The man who had opened his door to her on a stormy night. The man who had listened to her stories and shared his own. The man who had sold his mansion and his sports car to make things right. "I need time," she said finally. "And so does my family, but I'm not saying there's no chance." Relief washed over Adrian's face. "That's all I can ask for." They sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. "I have a favor to ask," Kiana said eventually. "Anything. My mother's birthday is next month. We're having a small dinner at our apartment. Nothing fancy, just family." Kiana took a deep breath. "Would you come? Meet her properly. Let her see the man I've been telling her about, not just the CEO whose company affected her job." Adrian looked surprised, then nervous. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" "No," Kiana admitted, "but it's a start." "Then yes," Adrian said. "I'd be honored." When Kiana got home that night, she found her mother making tea in the kitchen. "I saw you from the window," Joyce said. "With a man. Was that him? Adrian Voss?" Kiana nodded. "Yes. And he's the one who made the changes at the hospital. He rewrote the entire system, Mom. He's paying for your salary for the first 3 months out of his own pocket." Joyce's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Why would he do that?" "Because," Kiana hesitated, then decided on the truth. "Because he loves me. And because it was the right thing to do." Joyce was quiet for a long moment. "Do you love him?" "I think I do," Kiana admitted. "But I love you and Marcus more. I won't bring someone into our lives who hurts my family." "Oh, baby." Joyce's expression softened. "Love isn't a competition. Your heart has room for all of us. So you're not angry anymore." "I'm still processing everything," Joyce said honestly. "But I can't deny that what he's done is remarkable. Most men in his position would have defended their company's actions, not admitted they were wrong and tried to fix them. I invited him to your birthday dinner," Kiana said, watching her mother's reaction carefully. "I want you to meet him, the real him, not just the CEO of Voss Innovations." Joyce took a deep breath. "Well, this should be interesting." "Is that a yes?" "It's a, we'll see," Joyce said, but there was a hint of a smile on her face. "He must be something special to have my Kiana fighting so hard for him." "He is," Kiana said, "but so are you, Mom. So are you." The weeks leading up to Joyce's birthday were a time of cautious rebuilding. Kiana and Adrian spoke daily, but saw each other only occasionally. She needed space to think, to be sure her feelings were real and not just a reaction to his grand gesture. Adrian respected her boundaries, never pushing for more than she was ready to give. He sent updates about the hospitals implementing the new system, about the positive feedback from nursing staff, about the resignations of board members who couldn't accept his new vision for the company. "I'm moving the headquarters," he told her during one of their phone calls. From that glass tower downtown to a smaller building near the hospital district, I want our developers to see the healthcare workers they're designing for every day. That's a big change, Kiana observed. One of many, Adrian replied. All for the better, I think. At home, Joyce returned to work at the hospital with a mix of relief and lingering suspicion. But as the weeks passed, she had to admit that the new system was different, better. It valued her experience, gave her more time with patients, and recognized the human element of healthcare that couldn't be quantified in dollars and cents. It's almost like someone designed it with actual nurses in mind, she told Kiana one evening after a shift. Imagine that, Kiana said with a small smile. Marcus came home for a weekend and listened to the whole story with wide eyes. Let me get this straight, he said, pacing the living room. Your boyfriend is Adrian Voss? The Adrian Voss? The guy who revolutionized healthcare software? The guy whose coding framework I studied last semester? You studied his work? Kiana asked, surprised. Sis, he's basically a legend in tech circles. His distributed computing model is the basis for half the healthcare systems in the country. Marcus looked at her with new respect. And he rewrote his entire flagship product because of you? Because it was the right thing to do, Kiana corrected. Yeah, but he did it for you. Marcus grinned. That's like epic romance novel stuff. It's not that simple, Kiana protested, but she couldn't help smiling. When do I get to meet him? I have like 1,000 questions about his encryption protocols. At Mom's birthday dinner, if she doesn't change her mind. And please don't interrogate him about encryption. It's awkward enough without turning it into a tech conference. As the day of the dinner approached, Kiana found herself growing increasingly nervous. Adrian had made enormous changes to his life and company, but would it be enough? Could her mother see past the pain his company had caused to the man he was trying to become? The night before the dinner, Kiana called Adrian. Are you nervous about tomorrow? She asked. Terrified, he admitted. I've faced billion-dollar investors who were less intimidating than the prospect of meeting your mother. Kiana laughed. Just be yourself. The real you, not CEO you. What should I bring? Wine? Flowers? Nothing, Kiana said firmly. Mom doesn't want gifts. Just bring yourself and be honest. That's all any of us want. The day of Joyce's birthday dawned clear and beautiful. Kiana spent the morning cooking her mother's favorite foods, while Marcus decorated the apartment with streamers and balloons. Joyce pretended to be annoyed by the fuss, but the smile never left her face. As evening approached, Kiana found herself checking the clock every few minutes. Adrian had promised to arrive at 7 mo, and it was already 6:55. Relax, Marcus told her. He'll be here. What if Mom hates him? What if they argue? What if it all works out and you live happily ever after? Marcus interrupted. That's equally possible, you know. At precisely 7, the doorbell rang. Kiana took a deep breath, smoothed her dress, and went to answer it. Adrian stood in the hallway, looking nervous but determined. He wore a simple button-down shirt and slacks. Nice, but not flashy. His hands were empty as she'd requested. Hi, he said softly. Hi, she replied, stepping back to let him in. Come meet my family. As Adrian entered the apartment, Joyce emerged from the kitchen. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the nurse whose life had been upended and the CEO whose company had caused it. Then Adrian spoke, his voice steady despite his obvious nervousness. Ms. Blake, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I know my company caused you significant hardship, and for that I am truly sorry. Joyce studied him carefully. My daughter tells me you've made changes. I'm trying, Adrian said honestly. The system that led to your layoff was wrong, focused on costs instead of care. The new version we've implemented recognizes the essential role of nurses like you. It's not perfect yet, but we're working every day to make it better. Why? Joyce asked simply. Why change it now? Adrian's eyes flickered to Kiana, then back to Joyce. Because your daughter helped me see what I couldn't or wouldn't see before. That behind every efficiency metric and cost-saving measure, there are real people with real lives, people like you who dedicated 15 years to caring for others. Joyce nodded slowly. Well, Mr. Voss? Adrian, please. Adrian, Joyce amended. I can't say I'm ready to forgive everything that happened, but I appreciate what you've done to make things right, and any man who can make my daughter smile the way she does when she talks about you deserves at least one dinner. The tension in the room eased slightly. Marcus stepped forward, extending his hand to Adrian. I'm Marcus, the brother. Big fan of your distributed computing model, by the way. Adrian looked relieved to be on more familiar ground. Thanks. I'd be happy to talk about it sometime if you're interested. Absolutely. Marcus grinned. "But first I need to know your intentions with my sister." "Marcus!" Kiana exclaimed, mortified, but Adrian didn't seem bothered by the question. "Fair enough. I intend to love her, respect her, and do everything in my power to be worthy of her, if she'll have me." The simple sincerity of his words silenced the room. Kiana felt tears pricking at her eyes, and even Joyce looked moved. "Well," Joyce said after a moment, "I think that's a good start. Now let's eat before the food gets cold." The dinner wasn't perfect. There were moments of awkwardness, questions that touched on sensitive topics, silences that stretched a bit too long, but there were also moments of laughter, of genuine connection, of bridges being carefully built across the chasms that had separated them. As they finished dessert, a cake Kiana had baked from her grandmother's recipe, Joyce surprised everyone by raising her glass. "To new beginnings," she said, looking directly at Adrian, "and to second chances." "To second chances," Adrian repeated, his eyes finding Kiana's across the table. The moment was interrupted by Kiana's phone buzzing loudly on the table. She glanced at it, not recognizing the number. "Go ahead," Joyce encouraged. "It might be important." Kiana excused herself and stepped into the hallway to answer. When she returned a few minutes later, her face was flushed with excitement. "That was Valley Central Hospital," she said, her voice barely containing her emotion. "They're offering me a position in their nursing training program, a real chance to finally become a nurse like I always wanted." "Kiana, that's wonderful," Joyce exclaimed, rising to hug her daughter. "When do you start?" "That's the thing," Kiana said, her excitement faltering slightly. "The program starts next month, but it's in San Diego. I'd have to move." The realization settled over the room. San Diego was only a couple of hours away, but it might as well have been another country for what it would mean for her family, and for whatever was growing between her and Adrian. Adrian was the first to speak. "You have to take it," he said without hesitation. "This is your dream." "But Mom and Marcus and me," Adrian finished for her. "We'll figure it out. This is your chance, Kiana. You've put everyone else first for so long. Now it's your turn." Kiana looked at her mother, who had tears in her eyes but was nodding in agreement. "He's right, baby. This is what you've always wanted." "But what about us?" Kiana asked, her eyes moving from her mother to her brother and finally to Adrian. "All of us?" The question hung in the air unanswered. In that moment, Kiana Blake stood at a crossroads, her dream career on one path, the family she loved, and the man who'd changed his world for her on another. She looked at Adrian, searching his face for an answer, but before she could speak, before she could decide whether to forgive him completely, whether to trust the future they might build together, the phone in her hand buzzed again. The hospital calling back, probably with details about the position that could change everything. She looked at Adrian. She looked at her mother. The choice was hers to make. Kiana stared at her buzzing phone, the hospital's number flashing on the screen. Time seemed to slow as she looked around the table at the faces of the people she loved. Her mother, whose birthday celebration had just been interrupted, her brother, whose education she had sacrificed so much to support, and Adrian, the man who had changed his entire life because of her. "I should take this," she said quietly. "Of course," Joyce nodded, understanding in her eyes. "We'll be right here." Kiana stepped into her bedroom, closing the door gently behind her. Her hand trembled slightly as she answered the call. "Hello, Ms. Blake," came the crisp voice of the nursing program director. "I wanted to follow up on our offer and see if you had any immediate questions." "Yes, thank you for calling back," Kiana said, trying to keep her voice steady. "The position sounds amazing, but I'm wondering, is relocation to San Diego absolutely necessary?" There was a pause on the other end. "The core training takes place at our main campus, so yes, you would need to be in San Diego for at least the first year. After that, there might be opportunities at our Los Angeles affiliate hospitals. Is distance a concern for you?" "My family is here," Kiana explained. "My mother just got her nursing position back and my brother is at UCLA." "I understand," the director said sympathetically. "Family commitments are important. Would you like some time to think about it? We can hold the position for you until the end of the week." "Yes, please, I'll have an answer for you by then." "Wonderful. And Ms. Blake, for what it's worth, your application was one of the strongest we've seen. We'd be very fortunate to have you in our program." The words warmed Kiana's heart, even as they complicated her decision. "Thank you. That means a lot." When she returned to the dining room, 3 pairs of eyes looked up at her expectantly. "They're giving me until the end of the week to decide," she explained, sitting back down. "The program requires me to be in San Diego for at least the first year. That's not so far, Marcus said encouragingly. What, a 2-hour drive? I could come visit on weekends. So could I, Joyce added. Now that I have my job back, I could even help you with rent for a place down there. You'd both be okay with me moving? Kiana asked, surprised by their immediate support. Of course not, Joyce said with a small smile. I'd miss you terribly, but I didn't raise you to put your dreams aside for other people, even though that's exactly what you've been doing for years. She reached across the table to take Kiana's hand. It's your turn now, baby. Kiana felt tears welling in her eyes. I don't know if I can leave everyone. You wouldn't be leaving us, Marcus insisted. You'd just be a short drive away, finally doing what you've always wanted to do. Throughout this exchange, Adrian had remained quiet, his expression thoughtful. Now Kiana turned to him, uncertain what she wanted him to say. What do you think? She asked softly. Adrian set down his water glass carefully. I think you should take the position, he said, his voice calm despite the emotion in his eyes. You've put your dream on hold long enough. But what about us? The question felt vulnerable, exposing feelings Kiana wasn't sure she was ready to name. Us, Adrian repeated as if testing the word. Kiana, I fell in love with you because of your compassion, your determination, your willingness to fight for what matters. Becoming a nurse isn't just your dream, it's who you are. He leaned forward, his gaze intense. As for us, San Diego isn't the moon. There are trains, cars, phones. If we want to make it work, we will. Just like that. Kiana couldn't hide her skepticism. No, not just like that, Adrian admitted. It would take effort, commitment, planning. But I'm willing if you are. Joyce cleared her throat. Perhaps you two should continue this conversation privately. Marcus and I can clean up here. Absolutely, Marcus agreed quickly, already gathering plates. Take all the time you need. Kiana led Adrian to the small balcony off the living room. The night was clear, a few stars visible despite the city lights. For a moment they stood in silence, shoulders almost touching as they looked out at the skyline. I'm sorry about the timing, Kiana finally said. Tonight was supposed to be about my mother meeting you, not about me potentially moving away. Life rarely follows our schedules, Adrian replied with a small smile. Especially the important parts. Kiana turned to face him fully. Adrian, be honest with me. Do you really think we could make a relationship work with me in San Diego and you here? After everything we've been through? After everything that's still unresolved between us? Adrian took a deep breath. I don't know, he said honestly. Long-distance relationships are hard under the best circumstances, and ours hasn't exactly been simple. No, it hasn't. Kiana leaned against the railing, feeling the weight of their complicated history. But I do know this, Adrian continued, moving closer to her. When I met you, I was living in a glass house on a hill, isolated from the world, following a path my father had set for me. You changed that, changed me, in ways I'm still discovering. And I'm grateful for what you did for my mother, for all the nurses, but it wasn't just for your mother, Adrian interrupted gently. It was for all the people I hadn't considered before. The real people behind the efficiency metrics and cost-cutting measures. You opened my eyes to that. Kiana studied his face, searching for any sign of insincerity, but all she saw was the same earnest intensity that had drawn her to him from the beginning. I'm scared, she admitted. Scared of moving, scared of failing, scared of losing what we've barely had a chance to start. Adrian reached for her hand, his touch warm and steadying. I'm scared too. I've never felt this way about anyone before. The thought of you leaving, even just to San Diego, makes my chest hurt, but I'd rather have a complicated relationship with you than a simple life without you. His words hung in the night air, honest and raw. Kiana felt something shift inside her, a recognition that sometimes love meant taking risks, stepping into uncertainty together. What if we tried something else, she suggested, an idea forming. What if, instead of me moving to San Diego and us trying to maintain a long-distance relationship, you came with me? Adrian looked surprised. To San Diego? Not permanently, Kiana clarified quickly. But you said yourself you're restructuring your company, moving headquarters, changing direction. Could some of that happen from San Diego, at least part-time? You could keep an apartment here for when you need to be in Los Angeles, but maybe get a place in San Diego too. Split my time, Adrian mused, considering the idea. It could work. We're already moving to a more distributed model with teams in different locations, and San Diego has a strong healthcare technology sector. It would still be complicated, Kiana warned. I'd be in classes and clinical rotations, probably working odd hours. I'm used to complicated, Adrian said with a smile. And odd hours. He squeezed her hand. But are you sure you want this? Want me to be part of your new beginning? Kiana thought about the past few months. The chance meeting on a stormy night, the connection that had grown between them, the pain and the healing. She thought about how Adrian had faced his mistakes and worked to correct them, not just with empty words, but with real action. I'm sure I want to find out, she said finally. I'm not ready to give up on us, just when we're figuring out who we could be together. Adrian's smile brightened his entire face. Then let's figure it out. Together. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But Kiana met him halfway, their lips coming together in a kiss that felt like both a beginning and a continuation. When they separated, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. So, San Diego? San Diego, Kiana confirmed. At least for a year. Then we'll see. One step at a time. Exactly. They returned to the dining room hand in hand, where Joyce and Marcus were pretending not to watch for their return. Well? Joyce asked, unable to contain her curiosity. Kiana looked at Adrian, then back to her family. I'm going to accept the position in San Diego, she announced. And Adrian and I are going to try making it work, with him splitting his time between here and there. That sounds like a solid plan. Marcus nodded approvingly. Very mature and responsible. Joyce studied them both carefully. Are you sure this is what you want, Kiana? Not just the program, but everything? Kiana understood what her mother was really asking. I'm sure I want to try, Mom. Adrian has shown me he's willing to change, to make things right. I think he deserves a chance to prove that wasn't just a one-time thing. She squeezed Adrian's hand. We both deserve that chance. Joyce's expression softened. Then I'm happy for you. Both of you. She turned to Adrian. Just know that if you hurt my daughter, nurse or not, I know exactly where all the vital organs are located. Mom! Kiana exclaimed in embarrassment. But Adrian just laughed. I'd expect nothing less, Ms. Blake, and I promise you hurting Kiana is the last thing I ever want to do. Call me Joyce, she said, relenting. If you're going to be in my daughter's life, we might as well be on a first-name basis. Thank you, Joyce, Adrian said, genuine gratitude in his voice. That means a lot to me. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of conversation and planning. Marcus interrogated Adrian about his company's technology until Kiana had to intervene. Joyce shared stories of her early days as a nurse, offering Kiana advice for her upcoming training. And through it all, Adrian remained by Kiana's side, his presence a steady reminder of the unexpected path that had led them here. When it was time for Adrian to leave, Kiana walked him to the door. So, I guess we're really doing this, she said, still marveling at how much had changed in one evening. We are, Adrian confirmed. I'll start looking into our San Diego options tomorrow. Office space, apartment possibilities, the works. Don't you need to consult with your board or something first? Adrian smiled. The beauty of being CEO with controlling interest. Some decisions I get to make on my own. His expression grew more serious. Besides, this isn't just about us. Having offices near San Diego's medical research centers could be a strategic advantage for the company's new direction. Always the businessman, Kiana teased. Not always, Adrian said softly, cupping her cheek. Not with you. He kissed her once more before leaving, a promise in the gentle press of his lips against hers. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Kiana accepted the position in San Diego, beginning the process of enrolling in the nursing program. Adrian made good on his word, securing a small satellite office for Voss Innovations in San Diego's biotech corridor and finding a modest but comfortable apartment halfway between the hospital and his new office. Joyce, after initial hesitation, became increasingly supportive of Kiana's plans. The hospital's new system, Adrian's system, had indeed improved working conditions, allowing nurses more time with patients and fewer administrative burdens. I hate to admit it, she told Kiana one evening as they packed boxes for the move, but the man knows what he's doing. The new software actually helps us do our jobs better. I'll be sure to tell him you said so, Kiana grinned. Don't you dare, Joyce warned, but her eyes were twinkling. I have a reputation to maintain. Marcus, meanwhile, had formed an unexpected bond with Adrian, who had offered him an internship at Voss Innovations for the summer. Are you sure this isn't just because of me? Kiana had asked when Adrian mentioned the offer. Would it be so terrible if it were? Adrian had replied. But no. I offered because he's brilliant. His professors say he's one of the most promising students they've had in years. I'd be a fool not to try to recruit him. The day before Kiana was set to move to San Diego, she found herself back at the small park where she and Adrian had reconciled weeks earlier. The summer evening was warm, the park filled with families enjoying the last light of day. Adrian joined her on their bench, handing her an ice cream cone. Nervous about tomorrow? Terrified, Kiana admitted. New city, new career path, new everything. Not everything, Adrian reminded her, taking her free hand. Some things are coming with you. True. Kiana licked her ice cream thoughtfully. It's strange, isn't it? If that delivery app hadn't glitched, if it hadn't been storming that night, if I hadn't asked to wait out the rain, we never would have met. I don't believe that, Adrian said with surprising conviction. No? You think we would have met some other way? I think some people are meant to find each other no matter what. He looked slightly embarrassed by his own sentiment. I know that sounds cheesy, but no, it's sweet, Kiana assured him, leaning against his shoulder. I just never took you for a romantic. I'm full of surprises. That you are. Kiana turned to face him fully. Adrian, before we start this new chapter, I need to say something. I'm still not completely over what happened with your company and my mother. I don't know if I ever will be entirely. Adrian nodded, accepting her honesty. I understand. But, Kiana continued, I am completely sure that I love you. The man you are now, the man you're working to become, that's the Adrian Voss I want to build a future with. Adrian's eyes widened at her declaration. Kiana Blake, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I have been in love with you since you showed up at my door with sushi I didn't order, and I will spend every day trying to be worthy of the love you just offered me. Every day. Kiana raised an eyebrow. That's a lot of days. I'm hoping for a lifetime of them, Adrian said simply. The words hung between them. Not a proposal, but a promise nonetheless. A vision of possibilities stretching out before them. Kiana smiled, her heart full. One step at a time, remember? One step at a time, Adrian agreed, pulling her close. Starting tomorrow. Starting now, Kiana corrected, leaning in to kiss him as the sun set over Los Angeles. 6 months later, Kiana stood in the hallway of Valley Central Hospital, her student nursing scrubs still new enough to feel stiff. Her first rotation was halfway complete, and despite the challenges, the long hours, the difficult patients, the mountains of information to absorb, she had never been happier. Nurse Blake? A voice called from behind her. Kiana turned, still getting used to the title. Yes? An older nurse smiled at her. There's someone waiting for you at the nurse's station. Says he has a lunch delivery. Kiana checked her watch, confused. She hadn't ordered lunch, and it was only 11:30, earlier than her usual break. When she reached the nurse's station, she found Adrian standing there, a picnic basket in one hand and a small bouquet of flowers in the other. Surprise, he said, looking pleased with himself. I thought you might need a break. How did you know I'd be free now? Kiana asked, delighted but puzzled. Adrian shrugged. I might have consulted with your instructor. She seemed to think you deserved an extra long lunch today after how you handled the crisis in room 412 yesterday. Word travels fast, Kiana marveled. In hospitals and in tech companies, Adrian agreed. So, can you spare an hour for lunch with your somewhat long-distance boyfriend? For you? Always? They found a quiet spot in the hospital garden, spreading their picnic on a bench beneath a flowering tree. As they ate, Adrian filled her in on the latest developments at Voss Innovations, the continued success of the redesigned healthcare system, the new hospitals signing on, the improved patient outcomes being reported. We're making a difference, he said, his eyes bright with purpose. Real measurable improvements in patient care. That's amazing, Kiana said, genuinely proud. See what happens when you listen to nurses? I should have been listening all along, Adrian acknowledged. Speaking of which, I had a long conversation with your mother yesterday. Oh, Kiana was surprised. Though relations between Adrian and Joyce had warmed considerably over the past months, they weren't exactly confidants. She called to tell me about a new feature the nurses at LA Memorial want in the system, something about medication reconciliation. Adrian smiled, but we ended up talking about a lot more than that. Like what? Like you. How proud she is of you. How well you're doing in the program. Adrian hesitated. And about us, our future. Kiana set down her sandwich, suddenly alert. What about our future? She said, and I quote, It's about time you two stopped this back and forth nonsense and decided where you're going to live permanently. Kiana laughed. That sounds like Mom. She's not wrong, Adrian said, his tone growing serious. The past 6 months of splitting my time have been worth it to be with you, but it's not sustainable long term, for either of us. I know, Kiana sighed. But I still have 6 more months in this program, and then hopefully a position here at Valley Central. What if there was another option? Adrian asked carefully. I'm listening. Voss Innovations is opening a research and development center focusing specifically on nursing technology, working directly with nurses to design systems that make their jobs easier, not harder. Adrian took her hand. We need a director who understands both nursing and technology, someone who can bridge those worlds. Adrian, I'm just a nursing student. I don't have that kind of experience. Not yet, he agreed. But by the time you finish your program and get some experience, the center will be ready. And in the meantime, we could use consultants, experienced nurses with valuable perspectives. He smiled. I happen to know one who's looking for a new challenge. She has 15 years of experience and strong opinions about what makes good healthcare software. Kiana's eyes widened. My mother, Adrian nodded. I offered her a position yesterday. Part-time consultant to start with the potential for a full-time role if she wants it. What did she say? She said she'd think about it, and that I should talk to you first. Adrian squeezed her hand. The center would be here in San Diego, which means if your mother took the job, and if you were interested in eventually joining us after getting your clinical experience, we could all be here, Kiana finished for him. Together. That's the idea. Your mother could help design the systems now, you could help refine them with your new perspective later, and Marcus could join us when he graduates. A family business, of sorts. And where would you fit into this family business? Kiana asked, her heart racing. Adrian reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I was hoping as a permanent member of the family. If you'll have me. Kiana stared at the box, then at Adrian's nervous but hopeful face. Is that what I think it is? Why don't you open it and find out? With trembling hands, Kiana took the box and opened it. Inside was a simple but elegant diamond ring, sparkling in the sunlight. Adrian, I know it's fast, he said quickly, and I know we said one step at a time, but Kiana, from the moment you showed up at my door, you've been changing my life for the better. You showed me what really matters. You made me want to be more than just my father's son. He took a deep breath. I love you. I want to build a life with you, not just the next year or the next 5 years, but all the years we have. Tears filled Kiana's eyes as she looked at the ring, then back at Adrian. You talked to my mother about this too, didn't you? Adrian smiled sheepishly. I may have asked for her blessing. She said, and again I quote, if you make my daughter happy, you have my blessing. If you ever stop making her happy, remember what I said about vital organs. Kiana laughed through her tears. That definitely sounds like Mom. So? Adrian's voice was soft with hope. What do you say? Will you marry me, Kiana Blake? Wrong door, right heart and all? Kiana closed the ring box and held it tight in her palm. On one condition. Anything. Promise me we'll always remember how we got here, that sometimes the wrong address leads to exactly where you're meant to be. I promise, Adrian said, his eyes shining with unshed tears of his own. Every day of our lives. Kiana opened the box again and held out her left hand. Then yes, Adrian Voss, I will marry you. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Kiana felt all the pieces of her life finally falling into place. Her dream of becoming a nurse, her devotion to her family, and the love she'd found with the man who had opened his door to her on a stormy night. One wrong door had led her to exactly the right heart, and now together they would build a future neither of them could have imagined before that fateful night when a delivery app glitch changed both their lives forever. The end.